G'day, Tragic here, and welcome to my final thoughts on Eldritch Horror. I've got a bit of a sore throat because it's finals footies time in Sydney, and Sydney Swans are in the grand final, so I got pretty hoarse after the semi-final match, so excuse my gravelly voice. Anyway, I'll try not to lose too many subscribers here, but it's been many years from the last time I played EH, beg your pardon. And the last time I did play Eldritch Horror, I was only using 2 of the expansions. This time I had all the expansions mixed in, and I felt this would give me a serious go at how the game has evolved. And I must admit, having the new extra spells, extra, conditions, it's all very, very cool. It was a lot of fiddliness to handle, the way the game, tells you to search for specific cards and stuff like that. But I got some tips from Board Game Geek on how to better manage decks for future games. So that's not so much a problem with the game design, but it was an issue, and I think it's going to be an issue for all people who play this game who don't look up FAQs by community on how to manage it. Because most of my downtime in this game was just looking through decks, to find specific cards. Anyway, it's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of this game. The game is fine, great even in some aspects, but in comparison to Arkham Horror, well, second edition, I guess I need to call it now, Eldritch Horror just falls way, way short. AH2, for me, is just a better game in nearly every aspect. Now, you can look at my original thoughts on my last EH video if you like. I'll try not to go into too much detail about, this game versus AH2, and instead focus more on Eldritch Horror itself. Suffice to say, I still find some real issues with the pacing and the living game state, in inverted commas, of the game board in EH. Just small things like the Doom track literally never moving, or very rarely. It may as well not be in the game. It's so rare for it to have any effect. I finished the game, I played 14 turns, and I still had 8 Doom slots for it to move. It basically didn't move most of the game. And that's my experience in all my games. The monsters being completely stationary and basically being able to be ignored by the players. You can just walk straight by them. They don't stop you. They don't block you. Most of them don't have effects that require you to deal with them. And, even when you do have combat with them, it's not fighting to the death like in EH2. You just do one round of combat and they stack damage and you can kill them. So even the biggest, baddest monsters, a weak little investigator can kill them over a couple of rounds. And I don't know, it's just not as cool in my opinion. Never once do I feel the real pressure that AH2 is. AH2 is just a continual march of doom pressing down on you, forcing more and more desperate choices, forcing you to roll and pull upon the strings of fates to win when the strict rules of chance say you should burn. AH2 is just the best game. It should be noted, though, that I did find a super strange anomaly when packing up. Basically, basically Eldritch Horror spent a lot of time on my table. And I was worried I might be missing tokens, because of the kids and the cats and all that kind of stuff. So I got a big list and I went through the entire game counting every token and card by name to make sure I had a complete set and nothing was missing. And I found something rather strange. It seemed my original version of Eldritch Horror came with 2 sets of punch boards instead of 1. So I had double gates, double clues, double monsters, double every type of token that came in the base set. And this could hugely affect the difficulty of this game. Gates and clues are designed to always spawn in unique locations, forcing you to travel and move all over the board. In my games, they often clump up, even allowing me to sit on a single space and gain 2 clues in a single turn without moving. If I have 2 investigators there, it means I can trade free. My investigators are clumped up as well, so I can spread all the items out between the players and get everyone getting the best items. Even the monsters are less interesting as I have all the doubles. It means that the rare monsters that are big threats come out less often. I really think this could make a huge difference to the difficulty of the games that I've been playing since the beginning of my time in Eldritch Horror. I mean, it just could be completely skewed. Now, I don't know why I got like a second set of punch boards, but I spoke to some people on Board Game Geek, and apparently a few people have had this issue with the original print run, the very first print run. Anyway, that being said, I do not think the token issue will affect my main problems with this game. The casual, almost irrelevant doom clock, static monsters you can just walk past, ignore, particularly if you have one of the many ignore spells or items that are in this game. The board is just lifeless, making your entire game much more mechanical. In AH2, right, so a phone rang, I kind of lost my chain of thought there, but basically, I don't really know. Like, I think maybe my entire attitude about Eldritch Horror could be completely skewed, and I'm going to have to play this game a number of times again now with the correct tokens. I got this huge bag of spares now that I've taken out of the game, and I think it could really change the way the game plays. The board is just lifeless, making the entire game much more mechanical than AH2, and it removes the feeling of playing inside a real world, a world out to get you. I mean you personally. AH2 hates you, the player. It hates you and it wants to kill you. Eldritch Horror just seems to be happening around you. It's just a bunch of whack-a-mole things. Also, while AH2 has this fantastic system for handling content and that exceedingly clever system to automate running of the game for you, the Comet thing, I mean, that is seriously clever. It also leads to some very boring rounds, particularly at larger player counts. Now, I played 6 investigators, and the reason I played 6 investigators is because I usually play AH with 6 to 8 people, and same with same with Eldritch Horror, because that's how big my family is, right? And when the Comet comes, there is just a metric ton of bookkeeping to get done, and it grinds the game to a screaming halt and detaches the player from what's happening on the next turn and what happened in the previous turn. Like in AH2, like every single, like you plan ahead like chess, multiple turns in advance because the game rolls into the next turn so smoothly. But in this one, the whole game stops when a Comet happens and you've got all this bookkeeping, and it can be kind of dull. It takes a long time. And more importantly, it can actually distract the player. So the player forgets what's going on in the previous turn that just ended and the turn that's happening in the future, because they're so focused on their individual events going on. And the other thing about, AH2, and AH2 has this issue as well, but in AHEH, man, I'm getting tongue twisted. Another issue with Arkham Horror, another issue with Eldritch Horror that also is in Arkham Horror 2 is that there's just so much content that you don't use, particularly in Eldritch Horror, where they've got like separate decks for each old one. Like in Eldritch Horror, they could just you could just have a huge list. You have about as many goos as you have investigators, because, it doesn't change the game as much as in Eldritch Horror. Yes, the thematics aren't as good, but at the same time, there isn't like 50% of the game sitting in the game box. And that kind of bugs me, Anyway, whatever. EH is what I call a burst damage game. It's a term I use for some games like, say, Ghost Stories that have these sudden and intense bursts of calamity. In EH, you're cruising along with basically no pressure on you apart from a depleting goo deck, those purple cards, and then something happens and the entire board is sent into disarray. You then spend the next bunch of turns trying to manage that burst of problems until the game is again stabilized, and the trick to winning is to stabilize as fast as possible so you can move towards the win condition unimpeded until the next burst. Now, there's nothing wrong with burst damage games in principle. Ghost Stories is one of my favorite solo games, but there is something off in the balance of EH. I feel like I'm just never really in trouble. I'm not sure if I lost a gator in this game. I lost 2 gators in this game, but even so, I felt like I was cruising, and I always feel like I'm cruising in Eldritch Horror. In AH2, it's just a pressure cooker that presses down on you. Every turn, it is worse and worse and worse. In AH2, every encounter and every roll matters. In EH2, you have entire turns that feel like they make no difference to the game. Do not get me wrong, EH isn't a bad game. It has a lot going for it. And in fact, I would pull this game out over AH3 or 2 for new players. It is dripping with theme. It is super easy to run. I mean, that Comet system is actually brilliant, how it just runs the game for you. And AH2 is famously a rather convoluted game. Thing is, I just love AH2. I mean, they're similar in many ways. And when the urge to hit this kind of game hits me, I just think I have more fun in AH2 still. But again, maybe the balance issue that I'm complaining about is all because of these tokens, because the map isn't functioning as intended. I'm not going to unique locations all the time. So I'm getting this clumping. I can trade between players easier. Maybe that is making a huge difference to how this game is feeling for me. So I'm definitely going to play this game multiple times. I'll probably play at least one extra game on this channel, this time with an external campaign board. And we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, that is my current thoughts on Eldritch Horror. And I'll see you guys next time.